Since you clicked on this video, waves have already reshaped Michigan's shoreline. By the time you finish, ice will have shifted on the lakes, currents will have moved sand, and the state's outline will be slightly different from the one in your head. Not enough for the textbook map to change, just enough to remind you that Michigan has never been the neat mitten you were shown in school. You think you know this place: cars, lakes, cold winters. But Michigan's geography quietly bends the rules. Two land masses pretending to be one state, a bridge that hangs between storms and ice, and so much fresh water that you're never really far from it, no matter where you stand. By the end of this journey, you will not just know 13 wild facts about Michigan. You will understand why the map has always been an understatement. Zoom out. Michigan is the only U.S. state made of two large peninsulas, the Lower Peninsula and the Upper Peninsula, separated by the Straits of Mackinac. Stand on the south shore. To your left, Lake Michigan. To your right, Lake Huron. Straight ahead is the Upper Peninsula, a different world of forest and rock, across a moving channel of cold water. On a classroom map, that gap is a thin blue line. In person, it feels like two states trying to hold the same name. Fact number 2, the state that fits in your hand. Ask someone from Michigan where they're from and watch what happens. They lift a hand. The Lower Peninsula is shaped so much like a mitten that National Geographic Kids literally teaches it that way. The thumb sticks into Lake Huron, the knuckles mark cities, and the heel of the palm fades into Indiana and Ohio. Your hometown becomes a dot on your skin. Even before you learn any science words, your own body becomes a map. But the hand is just the outline. The real story starts when you look at what that hand is touching. Fact number 3, almost an island in freshwater. Michigan is surrounded by 4 of the 5 Great Lakes: Superior, Michigan, Huron, and Erie. Every major river in the state eventually drains into this loop of inland seas, then out the St. Lawrence River to the Atlantic. From Detroit to Grand Rapids to Marquette, you live inside one massive freshwater system. On the ground, that means weather rolling in from any direction can pick up moisture from a lake and dump it as snow right on your street. Michigan is not just next to water, it is almost inside it. Fact number 4, more shoreline than any ocean state. You might think California or Florida would win the shoreline contest. They do not. Because of its peninsulas and islands, Michigan has about 3,288 miles of shoreline, second only to Alaska and more than any other state, ocean or not. Walk a Lake Michigan beach at sunset, and it feels like the sea, waves, horizon, wind. Then you lick your lips, and you realize there is no salt. On paper, Michigan is land with blue around it. In reality, it is a narrow strip of ground wrapped in water. Fact number 5, you can't escape lakes, even if you try. There is a claim Michiganders love. You are never more than about 6 miles from a natural body of water, and never more than 85 miles from a Great Lake anywhere in the state. The exact number is debated, but the data backs up the feeling. A study by Michigan Lake Associations found over 10,000 inland lakes that are 5 acres or larger, plus tens of thousands of smaller ponds. Drive in any direction and you'll hit water. Quiet ponds in the woods, wide rivers, or one of the Great Lakes themselves. In summer, that means docks and fireworks reflected on flat black water. In winter, it means ice thick enough to park a truck on until the day you misjudge it. You may have heard that Michigan has 11,000 lakes. A detailed review found about 10,031 named lakes of 5 acres or more, slightly fewer than the slogan. But when the researchers added smaller lakes and ponds, The number exploded to over 64,000. The slogan wasn't a lie, it just wasn't ambitious enough. At some point, counting lakes stops being a list and becomes a texture. You don't live near a lake here. You live in a mesh of them. Fact number 7. One bridge holds the state together. Go back to the gap between the peninsulas. The thing stitching Michigan together is the Mackinac Bridge, almost 5 miles long. When it opened in 1957, it was the longest suspension bridge between anchorages in the world, and it still holds that record in the Western Hemisphere. You drive onto it, the deck rises, lake water stretches to both horizons. At the center, the road is about 200 feet above the straits. On windy days, the bridge is designed to move several feet side to side. You might not see it, but your hands feel it in the small corrections you make on the wheel. On your phone, the bridge is a thin line. Up here, it is a long, swaying argument between gravity and engineering. Fact number 8. Built to fight not just wind. Most bridges worry about weight and wind. The Mackinac Bridge has to fight ice. Every winter, huge sheets of ice slam into its piers as the lakes freeze and thaw. Some foundations extend about 210 feet down to anchor into the lake bed and resist both the ice pressure and storms over 70 miles per hour. Stand on the shore in January and listen. The ice cracks and grinds like breaking glass. Above it, cars hum across a narrow strip of steel. The bridge isn't just a road. It's a year-round test of how much punishment metal and concrete can take. Fact number 9. 2 Great Lakes are secretly one super lake. On your atlas, you see Lake Michigan on one side and Lake Huron on the other. 2 names, 2 shapes. Hydrologists point out something different. There is no dam or drop between them, just the open Straits of Mackinac, and the water on both sides sits at the same level. By that logic, Michigan and Huron are actually one connected lake, sometimes called Lake Michigan Huron. If you treat them as a single body of water, this super lake becomes the largest freshwater lake on Earth by surface area. The maps split it in 2. The water never did. Fact number 10, a state of islands. That shoreline number includes island coasts too. Michigan has hundreds of islands in the Great Lakes, from large ones like Drummond and Beaver Island to countless unnamed rocks and reefs. The most famous is Isle Royale in the northwest corner of Lake Superior. It belongs to Michigan but sits closer to Canada, Minnesota, and Wisconsin than to any Michigan mainland city. You reach it by boat or seaplane, no cars, no highways, just cold water, dense forest, and occasionally a wolf track in the mud. On most United States maps, it is a tiny speck. Stand there, and the mainland feels like the speck. Fact number 11. You can change time without changing states. Most of Michigan follows Eastern time, but 4 counties in the far western Upper Peninsula, Gogbik, Iron, Dickinson, and Menominee, follow Central time to match nearby Wisconsin. Drive west from Marquette, and at some unmarked point, your phone jumps back an hour. The sun hasn't moved. Only the rule did. Morning, lunch, and midnight all shift because you crossed an invisible line that does not show up in bold print on most school maps. It is a reminder that even time is partly a human decision laid over the land. Fact number 12. Farther north than you think. Look at the northern edge of the Upper Peninsula. Some points stick so far into Lake Superior that they lie farther north than Boston and even parts of Maine. We grow up thinking the North lives in New England postcards and New York snowstorms. In reality, quiet stretches of Michigan shoreline are sitting above those famous cities on the globe, lonelier, colder, and far less crowded. The Upper Peninsula doesn't fit the East Coast mental map. It's Midwest by culture, Canadian by latitude, and something else entirely by mood. Fact number 13. Almost half the state is water. Add it all up. 2 peninsulas, 4 Great Lakes, tens of thousands of inland lakes, hundreds of islands. When you include its share of Great Lakes surface, roughly 40% of Michigan's total area is water. On a classroom map, blue is background and green is the main subject. In Michigan, those roles almost reverse. Water is the rule, land is the exception. So here is the real question. What does it do to you to grow up in a place where your state is split in half, your roads cross moving ice, your 4 lakes might actually be 1 super lake, and almost half of what you live in is not land at all? The next time you see Michigan drawn as a simple mitten on a weather map, remember the parts the outline leaves out, the islands that are closer to other states than to their own capital, the lake count that turned out to be too low, and the counties that flip time zones without crossing a border. Because if one state you thought you understood can hide this much inside its shape, it is not just Michigan that deserves a second look. It is every map you have ever trusted.